I almost got caught. Bases dropped. Another round of soccer down here. It's a Freestyle Friday, and it's a busy day here on the network. Couple different things we have planned. Obviously, we've got the morning show, and we'll see if the Michael Parkhurst streak of appearances reaches 4 or if the streak is broken by Greg Garza coming up bottom of the hour with our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. 10 o'clock, we'll pick things back up with all of the news because in looking at things, there's a lot to talk about. A bunch of different things to get into across the board. There's a retirement in Barcelona. It is the last day to submit an expansion bid for the NWSL, and there's been some interesting movement there. News out of Qatar. We've got Super League news. We've got the press conferences from MLS Cup. We'll get into MLS Cup specifically here in the first half hour because someone has returned, not quite 100%. But Jared, how would you grade your current health on the 40%. Scale? Okay, so still a scale of 4 of 10, but that means in baseball you're a Hall of Famer. So gaming, being the true gamer that he is, Jared will be with us for the first half hour, and we'll continue to roll through a lot of things there as well. We'll go through all the news, the rumors, the gossip, the innuendo, who could be going where, who's keeping an eye on whom, all those kinds of things. But first, opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, right there in the middle of the screen. And right there, if you click on that QR code with our friends at Kickoff Coffee, you get 15% off of your purchase using the code SoccerDownHere15, and they in turn take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game and youth initiatives. Kickoff Coffee CO. You can follow them on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram at Kickoff Coffee CO, and it's kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, Jarrett, what I wanted to do for opening kickoff this weekend. Wow. This morning is get into the championship games, plural, that we have this weekend. But I wanted to start the kickoff with what's going to happen in Statesboro on Sunday night with Chattanooga Red Wolves and South Georgia Tormenta going for the USL double. And there should be if South Georgia Tormenta get the win, I think it's the first time that a franchise has a men's championship and a women's championship in a season. But South Georgia Tormenta hosting the USL League One title game in their new stadium, another piece of the building process for Darren Van Tassel and the Tormenta Magenta this weekend.
It's going to be an interesting game. Should be a lot of fun. Chattanooga's pretty new at this too, in the grand scheme of things. Red Wolves still a little, they're still a little green at times, and it's awesome to see two of the younger clubs getting involved here and making these moves to make it to a championship and to go through what they went through to get here. Specifically with Tormenta, they had to go to Greenville, which, if you know anything about that, that's blood feud between those two. They do not like each other. Tormenta went into Greenville, had to beat their rival on their turf to get a chance to host this game. It'll be an awesome opportunity, though, for them to try and go out there and pick up another piece of hardware. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds. It should be a fun game. And it's been a great year for Tormenta aside from that. I mean, we talk about the women being very good. And you talk about what the women did consistently.
Yeah.
And then you talk about what the men did even before now. Like, don't forget, this is a team that went and beat Birmingham and Charleston in USL Championship in US Open Cup play. And I will die on the hill. They should have beat Miami.
Yes.
Inter Miami, an MLS playoff team. They had Miami dead to rights, and Drake Callender made probably 3 or 4 saves in the first half of that game that he had no business making. It could have easily been Tormenta 3-0 at halftime in that game, and they end up losing. I think they lost like 4-1, 3-1, something like that. It's a really good year for Tormenta, and it's really awesome to see what they're building down there coming to fruition. And if this is their coming out party for everybody else, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what they've been able to build across the board. Chattanooga, you mentioned what the Red Wolves have been up to. Red Wolves had to go to Richmond, and they were a man down for most of the match. Teixeira got a red. He will not be available for this particular match for the Red Wolves. And they get the win. Rafa Mensingen, who may want to try to continue his appearances here on SDH because he appeared, he gets the game-winning goal. So we'll see what coverage the Red Wolves do as they try to climb over each other to give a preview of the championship game. Toby Otieno will be catching up with him later this afternoon, and that'll be posted to the network in short order this afternoon. So we've seen what Tormenta's been able to do with the great year that they've had, not getting the USW League title against the Minnesota Aurora. We got the news about Aurora and the NWSL.
And shout out, and let's break this even further into Atlanta as we do soccer down here. Related things. One of Tormenta's women's holding midfielder who helped lift that trophy, Laura Hearn, is holding down the midfield for Georgia State, who is advancing rapidly through the Sun Belt Women's Soccer Tournament. They took down the top seed Georgia Southern the other day. Big gutty performance. She wants more hardware too, and now she's got an opportunity to win more trophies on top of winning one for Tormenta. Like I said, everything's coming up magenta right now.
Yes, and the game itself is 7:30 Sunday night down in Statesboro, and if you haven't gotten tickets, get tickets. If you can't get tickets, then watch on ESPN2. I believe it's Josh Eastern, Devin Kerr, and Marion Crowder. Marion is a friend of the network. We've been catching up with Marion for years, so it'll be good to see them down in Statesboro, and obviously we'll have a full report as to what's going on there on the weekend. We'll have that early next week, so it'll be fun to see what's going on with Statesboro and the growth of everything there, and another championship game in Statesboro in USL League One, and historic stuff with USL League One and the USL Players Association. They now have an agreement with the Players Union for USL League One as well. So very, very, very earth-shattering news. It's news that probably should have been. It's been worked on for quite some time, but now good stuff from a player's perspective with the USLPA and USL League One. There's also a game, Jarrett, this weekend in Major League Soccer. I don't know if you've heard about it, but MLS Cup, and we've had
Kellen Acosta, stalwart defender for the Philadelphia Union. Really excited to see who wins the World Cup here.
Yeah,
because we're still in a situation where we have people covering sporting events and they don't take the time, not even a matter of being ignorant about something, don't even take the time to actually learn about what they're covering because it's absolute BS. But that's what we deal with here. And this is also it's also a tricky situation to handle it if you like soccer, because you have to address them in a way that is to say, hey, look, you expect people to put in the effort to go in and cover football or baseball. Or basketball, to know what they're talking about in at least the vicinity of it, and to know who plays for what teams. You ask the bare minimum of that out of people. We ask you to do the bare minimum when you're covering soccer as well, and it feels like that should be the damn bare minimum. But you also have to do it in a way that doesn't just scream like screaming into the abyss and yelling and throwing things and coming across as too arrogant, because even though they're the ones in the wrong a lot of times in this, they'll take it as it's easy for it to get misconstrued as, well, soccer fans are being hoity-toity and arrogant and holier than thou and condescending and obnoxious. So you have to find that line to walk it efficiently.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you can sit there and say that soccer fans are arrogant and holier than thou and this, that, and the other. But none of that excuses a damn bit of the fact that you don't know who plays for what team when you are sent to cover it. Oh my God, just pull it up on your computer.
There was a
the roster on your computer, and there's a nameplate in front of them. Come the hell on.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You ask people to be slightly informed to cover stuff, but with soccer, we're not going to do that? Oh, get the hell out of Dodge, man. And don't come in, don't try and be the smartest guy in the room, showing up to try and ask a question that's above your pay grade and it's above your head and make yourself look stupid. Just do the research and keep it simple.
Yes.
That's really all I'm asking. And I feel like that's not a huge ask, but I guess for some people it is.
And apparently Kellen Acosta is a Cowboys fan. So that added to the answer as well. And the biggest
Well, I mean,
thing,
he was in Dallas originally, so
yeah. So you're talking about a team that won again in the NFC East last night, and Dallas Goedert got me a good 20 points.
I'm about to say that's not the same Dallas, but okay.
No.
At least somebody in Philadelphia was happy.
Houston Texans got the win last night on Thursday Night Football, and another painful excursion of Thursday Night Football for our folks at Prime Video. But Nick Sirianni doing very, very well for your EAGLES Eagles. Dallas Goedert doing well for me.
Go Birds.
And yes, and and then here's the question from
Philadelphia, the MLS World Cup.
Airborne
because everything revolves around the United States and their sports. It's the World Series. It's it's the World Championships of whatever. It's the World Cup. No, man, like other leagues do fun things too. Look, I get it because this is the one sport where you are unequivocally not the best in terms of your domestic league. The NBA is the best basketball league. Major League Baseball is the best baseball league, and that's and let's bring this around here too. None of that takes away from the fact that the KBO is insanely fun.
Yes.
Japanese league is insanely fun. Venezuelan winter leagues can be some wild ass stuff, and they're a lot of fun. This is the one where you're not the best, and that's okay. Just enjoy it for what it is, because you have this wild ass playoff setup that just keeps changing constantly. And now you have two teams that are debutantes in it. One team who had been the lovable losers for over a decade, who turned heel and now have a chance to lift the title as a heel, and the other team who is kind of has media darling status with celebrities who missed the playoffs last year, got healthy, brought in all the reinforcements to get them over the hill, and they've gotten over the hill, and now is their chance to claim the title that LAFC has wanted since they got here, with a chance to basically tell the Galaxy to get out of their town. But there's plenty in this without getting stuff wrong and just reaching for stuff incorrectly. Yeah, the Little League World Series is a World Series, and how often does the United States just get absolutely pimp slapped in that? My favorite one was a couple of years ago, where like some team from Japan just run-rolled everybody. They had some like 12-year-old from Japan who was like 6'1", who just, I mean, like I think he hit like 700 in the series. Fun fact though, Georgia had two champions in I think back-to-back years. Because of Warner Robins and I think Macon?
Columbus,
thank you. Because Jake Fromm was on one of those teams, I think.
Yeah. Jake Fromm was a part of that one, and I do specifically remember the Little League World Series being a part of the Warner Robins milieu for quite some time. That was attached to it.
And bam, Australian Baseball League's about to start. Y'all have one of my personal favorites that played for the Braves in the last 15 years was Australian. Was Peter Moylan, who does broadcast every now and then for the Braves. He's a wonderful broadcaster. Gives a very light insight to stuff, but I know he had been talking about doing some work in Australia on the coaching side. So, but he made his bones in the World Baseball Classic, and then got an offer to go pitch for the Braves, and did that for, I think he pitched for the Braves for, I think 3 or 4 years the first stint, then another 3 or 4 years the second stint. But yeah, Peter Moylan made a really damn good career. One of my favorite Braves of the last probably 15 years.
Yep. Emilio with a question, and you had Acuna play in Australia before he made it to Major League Baseball, having to do with baseball down here. Emilio and his wife, they're old baseball fans. Question to the floor. This is the QOD. Is a no-hitter by 4 people worthy of anything? Wife actually got lit up and called it meaningless-ish. I digress.
I think it still matters. That's just the way the sport is going now, because it's the way the analytics look at things.
Yeah.
So much of the analytics looks at, your trips through the order, that, your batting average the first time through the order is what it is, and second and third time through the order. A lot of times they don't want pitchers to face a lineup 3 times because of the analytics, because of all of the resources that batters and hitting coaches have to their disposal. They can start eliminating things quickly, and by the third time through the order, you're sitting on what you expect to get, that sort of thing. Yep. The same thing last year when Atlanta pulled Ian Anderson after 5 no-hit innings in the World Series against Houston. Nobody was upset about it. I was like, that's fine, because at that point, like that version of Ian Anderson, third time through the order, the average against him jumped to over 400. That was just smart coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. It's not the same thing as when someone does it 9 innings on their own. But I mean, unless somebody's got like a 12-0 lead, and it's like game 6, I don't think you're going to see it.
No, I don't think you are either. But the question that was brought up by the Airborne DJ, which is worse, the Acosta incident, the Kellen Acosta incident, or the MLS World Cup incident? I would maintain they're both bad.
Yeah, they're both bad. I mean, they both reek of just not doing your research ahead of time. Mm-hmm. It's just laziness, and that's what I won't excuse from it all, is just being lazy and not doing your research. That's child's play.
Yes.
That's more embarrassing to you and to the outlet that you're representing than anything else to me.
Yep. The game in and of itself, the last game of the year at the bank, where there's no parking for LAFC people.
That's a whole different kettle of fish. Good God.
Yeah, USC's got a football game, and by the way, you have no parking. So they're opening the stadium up early, and for that first hour of being open early from 1:30 to 2:30 Eastern time, 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. local time, 50% off food and drink. So they're encouraging alternate transportation to get there. Shuttles from Dodger Stadium, which is a 7-mile shuttle run on a bus in LA traffic.
Pretty sure I had to do that at an Auburn game once.
Yeah. But
pretty sure I parked at like a shopping center in Opelika and then had to like catch a shuttle.
Yeah. So you've got to do that if you want to get there. Alternate transportation, they're saying Metro. They're saying the shuttles from Dodger Stadium, because you can't park there. I want to see what the crowd looks like early on. Fun facts. Both LAFC Philadelphia making their first appearance in MLS Cup, 4th time in league history, including the inaugural 96 season. Both MLS Cup finalists are making their debuts. DC and LA in 96, Crew and Red Bulls in 08, Seattle, Toronto in 2016. Both finished 67 points. First time the top seeds from both conferences reached MLS Cup since 2003.
Yeah, okay, so let's get on this real quick, because this really pissed me off when I saw a lot of people getting on their high horse about, well, see, I guess we don't really need to do 2 legs, or this playoff format works perfectly. Look at that. We don't need parity. Like, man, this is the first time since 2003 you've had the top seeds. You have shifted the playoff formula constantly over and over and over again, and has generated so much parity and has generated hilarious results and hilarious moments throughout the history of this league. Do not use this one example as a way so you can get on your high horse and pretend like you're better than everybody else and you're being a smartass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Byrne wants to know, why is the game being played at 12 noon local time? Because the TV partner said so.
Because I guess TV said so, and bam, unless you're on a flight, I'm assuming you're just going to need an energy drink. Man, I don't love that it's 12. I wish they would have been able to do it at like 4 local time, 7 Eastern, that sort of thing. But that is tricky. I know.
That's the key. College football Saturday, and you're going.
You want to get really weird? Play it on a Monday.
Oh, Monday Night Football.
Play it on a Monday. Set it on 5 p.m. local time. Run at 8 p.m. on Fox. Fox doesn't have anything sport-wise. Well, actually, let me think.
Not on a Monday.
You have the World Series Saturday as well. That's probably why it pushed, because Fox has the World Series rights.
Yeah, so you
got Saturday night. Game set Sunday.
Yeah. And so that's what you're trying to lean into, is to turn this into everybody's watching Fox one way or the other.
Yeah.
An evil robot Jared has returned. No,
Night
and
football.
go for it, Jarrett.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what Monday looks like in terms of I don't know who's playing Monday Night Football, but yeah, man.
Let's see, to answer Jarrett's question on Monday, what is Monday Night Football? That's the good. Monday is the barn burner of Baltimore at New Orleans. That's your Monday Night Football matchup.
Okay, people are gonna hate watch it. Who cares?
So that's what you're going up against if you're Fox. But I think what Fox is trying to do is go big noon kickoff, MLS Cup, World Series, bang, bang, bang. Try to get all three in a row, and so that way you spend your entire day watching a variety of things on Big FOX. I think that's what you're trying to get. It's what you're trying to get to.
I guess I just don't. I don't love. I mean, I know it's because of the time of year. We've been over this. In a perfect world, I would have. I think Jason and I have talked about this before as well. In a perfect world, put MLS Cup on Black Friday.
Yes.
There's NFL's trying to push into Black Friday, but put MLS Cup in Black Friday. And this is, of course, in a year where you don't have the World Cup in December because FIFA decided that their lizard brain took over wanting money from Qatar. And you stretch the season out a little bit more, and you do it on Black Friday. Go for that. That way you're not competing with Big Noon Saturday with the Big Ten, and you don't have to have Urban Meyer try and talk about soccer because, my God, I don't know if I can handle
it. Yeah. Actually, Tom, it is a 4:05 kick. I think that pregame show is probably going to be a 3:30. Whenever Big Noon is over, whenever the game is over, then they lean into your pregame show and 4:05 actual kick. But kickoff is 4:05, according to the MLS website.
I can't imagine living on the West Coast personally, even though I'd be interested in trying it. Just the concept of having football games starting, like my Big Noon kickoff starts at 9 a.m. and I literally have games all day long. At noon would be my CBS game of the week. ESPN 7 p.m. primetime game would be at 4 p.m. And as I'm settling into a wonderful evening after dinner, Hawaii comes on my TV. Like that's West Coast living West Coast living for football is perfect for the true degenerate of college football.
Well, and Bam has a question to the floor, and he wants to know, is 7 a.m. early to start drinking for kickoff?
Depends on what you're drinking.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to go like a mimosa, I mean, first of all, don't let anyone tell you what's right or wrong. Second of all, you can bend the rules with something like a mimosa or a Bloody Mary, and then people will. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, you're drinking, but it's classy drinking, versus someone's pounding Natty Lights at 7 a.m. That's different. If someone's pounding back, because I used to go to the Mehans in Smyrna with a buddy of mine who was an Arsenal fan because it's an Arsenal bar, and he would pound back Bloody Marys while we watched Arsenal lose. And that was always very funny, but it was also like there's something cultural about, like, someone pounding back Bloody Marys isn't nearly as trashy at 8 a.m. in the morning as someone pounding back Natty Lights at 8 a.m.
Yes. So it is time for you to tag out, sir, because we've heard the magical sound.
We did.
And so please feel better. And if you want to come back at 10 o'clock and after as we get into the news of the day, that's what it's there for.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So we'll catch up with you in a bit. So Jarrett Smith tags out, which means that this guy tags in. Greg Garza. What's in the mug, Greg?
Can't tell you. How's everything going, man?
All right. Welcome back. You've had a busy last couple of weeks. So good to have you back, but you've been flying around, catching up with a lot of different folks. What have you been up to the last couple of weeks?
Everything's been great. John, thank you for having us as always. We've been busy with Beyond Goals. It's been awesome to connect in so many different places with Michael. Going to Boys and Girls Clubs, connecting with Atlanta United. Drawing up the drawing board of some things that will potentially happen in the future. Just very excited about the growth of everything, and really focusing on continuing in what our opinion is so important in today's, youth sports world, and even the professional sports world of just the mental fortitude and mental strength that is needed to gain consistent success.
All right. So first thing that I wanted to ask about is the time that you get to spend with Michael and the Unified team. Do you remember the first time when you were with Atlanta United when the Unified team was introduced to you as an individual? Do you remember what those conversations were like?
Yeah, I do. I remember who is the head of community relations, Marissa Arns, within Atlanta United. She gave us this list right when we first started Atlanta United. And I love the fact that, it was already, these are things for an inaugural club to already have, on the surface for us to go ahead and, really be involved within the community from the very first day. That was something that really stood out to me. But she gave us this list of all the organizations that they had obviously wanted to work with from the get-go. And that was one of the first ones that caught my eye. I'm not sure if I had mentioned it on the show before, but I remember in 8th grade, when I was in 8th grade, I was a PAL. And what we had in Texas, there were about maybe 12 of us of the whole entire school within 8th grade. And we were PALs. I honestly don't even remember what it stands for. Peers assisting, I don't know what the L is for. But we got to spend all day with kids that had special needs. Every Friday, our whole entire school day within 8th grade for me was to help kids with special needs and follow them around throughout the day and go to class with them and help them with any homework that they had. And that's something that really stood out to me. I think I was, obviously being raised by, great parents to teach me great morals and values about life. And, I just always had this want and will and desire to be involved in things like that. And that was probably the beginning of me working with kids and even just people along that matter that have some special needs. And, for me, throughout my whole entire career, not only within Atlanta, I did the same thing in Tijuana. I was an ambassador there as well for kids with Down syndrome as well. It was always such a blessing because, I think for myself, you learn so much from them, us as adults or us as other kids, you really start to think, what the word happiness means, right? And what the word joy means. And I think they really solidify of nothing else matters in life rather than just being happy. And I think with the unified team, that's something that you see, you learn so many core values from just their happiness of being on the field, and nothing else really phases them. They have no other worries about life rather than just being happy within that moment. I think that for me, being involved, and now, people always tell me, thank you for always doing what you do for our community, and spending time, especially with Special Olympics and the unified team. And, I'm the one thanking them. I'm the one thanking them because they teach you so much about what life is meant to be and what it's all about. And I think that for me is probably my biggest lesson for anybody that wants to get involved, is that you learn so much from their way of being and the way that they act towards, just towards life itself.
Yeah, and that was what I wanted to dive into here a little bit with peer assisted learning, and the ideas that we get to learn as much from them as they do from us, and that kind of and it's two-way mentoring in ways with individuals that you wouldn't necessarily expect that you would get it from, but it's another avenue where mentors get to learn as much from their mentees as the other way around.
Most definitely. I think that I love the way that you said that, because, even as mentors of kids who now play soccer, we are constantly learning week in, week out of better ways to understand kids' mentalities, right? What they're going through. And we learn different things, right? I use kids' quotes all the time with other kids, right? Because they're teaching me things of, what the word commitment means, or what, all of these different things of it's so interesting to see how so many kids think about themselves or how they think about the world around them. And we are constantly learning as well. But, I kind of had this thought in my mind right now is, this is what I now do for a living, of mentoring. And I kind of now just thought back of being a pal in 8th grade. And it's kind of, my whole life has kind of been, geared towards being a mentor and being someone that can, be there for certain individuals and, for groups itself. And I've been very fortunate to be raised in a great way, but also, keep those core values within my life.
When you have someone like Michael Mastrangelo, who literally just rubs off on you, I mean, literally, he is one of the most positive influences that I think anyone could have. And he, to the conversation that we've been having for the last 10 minutes, he reminds you of the right path. He reminds you of the path that you're taking, and he shows you the path that he's taken. And I just think that there are times that when you can, that we're reminded, when we get to see someone like Michael, when we get to see the unified team, we're reminded of the kind of good that we can do as both mentors and just as people. And I think that I think that a lot of folks maybe are missing out on unified team activities. Like, there'll be a game either well before an Atlanta United game or after an Atlanta United game. But to see Brad be a part of this process, to see you be a part of the process, to see the guys after a match where they've put it out there for 90 minutes, they get showered, then they come back out there and they're a part of the unified team's life because they get to be just as active as those unified team members are. And I think it's a really cool two-way street, and it reminds us once again about the impact that we can have in communities.
And that's what it's all about, right? It's essentially I'm not part of the Atlanta United organization anymore, but that organization of the unified team and Special Olympics, I will be a part of forever. And I think that's something that I think within mentorship that Michael and I have, like you said, are continuously learning. It's not about just going once and speaking to so many kids. It's about building a long and everlasting relationship, because that's what means the most, right? And 10 years from now, all of our mentees will hopefully have the ability to still speak to us and still have an opportunity, to continue to learn. And they're going to go through different phases within their life, and they're still going to say, hey, this person I counted on in specific moments, and this person I will continue to count on in specific moments. I think mentors are for life. It's not just, and sometimes the messaging, that is given from people that we really look up to, can be used once, and that's all you need to get to hear something and use it for the rest of your life. But I think mentorship in itself is something that is a long and everlasting relationship that means so much.
What was the last thing that you learned from a mentee?
Gosh, last thing I learned from a mentee. I'm going to say just I love learning from every mentee that I speak to, but I think asking every mentee, we always ask every mentee what the word commitment means. To see what the word commitment means in itself, of knowing, how driven you are to achieve something. And I think, there are so many different ways so many kids view that, whether it's the time, the sacrifice, the dedication, the waking up and not wanting to do something, but still doing it. Right. And I think for me, there are certain messages that I have gotten from so many different kids, whether it be a girl who's 11 years old and whether it be a college player who's 19 years old or 20 years old, or whether it be, a kid who's playing at the highest level or a kid that's playing in high school. It doesn't matter. I think that the value of what they view commitment is has been probably the most striking and most interesting to me, because every kid views the word commitment differently, and we all do. But I think that that's something that really stands out to me, because that shows me, how much work and how much effort they are willing to put in to achieve anything that's put in front of them, and continue to follow through with things. And that just shows me that no matter what, whether it's soccer, no matter what they have in front of them in their lives, they will have the right mindset and at least be willing to make that plan A come true.
What have been your percentages of male to female mentees? Has that changed over time? Has it been 50-50? Has it been purposely 50-50? What's been the percentage of male to female mentees?
Yeah, I would say we are more male mentee than female. We have a lot of girls that we work with. But I would say the majority of our kids are boys. And that's something that, strikes a bell within our minds and heads with Michael and I, because we want to raise that number within women. But the women's youth sports is very different than the boys youth sports, right? The politicalness, there's so many different avenues that are a little of the unknown for us, right? And we are continuously learning within that, even the soccer side of it, right? We know all the leagues now within the kids or within the boys sports, and within boys soccer and girls soccer, it can be very different, right? So I think, within and down the line, as we continue to progress and we continue to grow, we will definitely be looking to add a woman who has a voice that can also be heard and can also serve as a great mentor to open those doors for girls to speak to as well. And I think it's also just that feeling, the comfort level as well, right? I think a girl who's 12, 13 years old probably would feel a little bit more intimidated speaking to us as guys, and maybe would be a lot more open to speaking to a woman or an ex woman or ex player that's a woman to open up as much as possible, because we already have the intimidation factor even from our boys as well, right? So we definitely look in the future to say, when we do expand and we do start to grow even more, that will definitely be in the realm of our mentorship program.
Is there a question or a topic that you wish you were asked about more than you are? Because I imagine that there are times with mentees that, and we see this, when we go into classrooms and things like that, when you sit there and you're doing a presentation as an adult to students, and you ask them if there's any questions, and then there's silence in the room. Crickets. And it's like, and I will, when I'm talking to students who are interested in doing this for a living, I will sit there and I will tell them that no question is a dumb question, because it has been asked before and it has been answered before, but it would be the first time that you have heard that answer in this particular room and in this framework. Is there a topic that you wish would be addressed more, because you want to help as much as possible, but sometimes if you don't ask, you don't know what's going on in their head where you can help them? And that's the reason I asked that question.
Yeah, for sure. I think in a group setting, it is much more difficult for a kid to ask a specific or a particular question that is going to help them personally, right? I think more so in a group setting, the questions that we usually get are, what does it take to get to that level? But when we are in a more personal setting and a more individual, environment, I think that's when the questions are able to be asked, in a sense of, understanding, how to react with teammates, or how to create a positive mindset even when things are going really bad. I would say the question that, I would say the question that I would probably want more out of our mentees, if I were to be very, if I were to nitpick, something specific, I would say, I would want kids to ask me how I set my goals when I was their age.
Yeah.
Right. What goals did I set when I was their age? Because there are so many kids that we ask, what are your goals? And they don't know. Right. They're not sure of what their goals are and how to get there. Right. They usually have it up here, but for them to express that, I think there's been a very, everything is in these days is within this, right? Kids these days really don't write down. I mean, I always give them the opportunity to use their notes within their phone, right?
Yeah.
Every kid has an iPhone or a Galaxy or whatever it may be. It has a notes section. Write down a couple of things that really stand out to you, that you say, this is what I want. This is what I want for myself. And this is, a good starting point for me to try and get there. Not many kids have that. We'll get kids every once in a while that will have a, complete list of questions, even before we meet them. And those are the kids that you really say, okay, this kid knows exactly what he wants. But I would say for the most part, that is part of the mentorship as well, to help these kids understand that, obviously their voice can be heard, that you want them to ask questions, but at the same time to just open up and also even within themselves and start to understand what it is they want. Right. And that's such a fine line, because, a kid can be 18, 19, 20 years old and still not know what the heck they want to do with their life. But if you can get a kid to start thinking at the age of 13, 14 of small little goals that they can start to achieve and start to have that use of understanding what accomplishment is, if they do get closer to those, or even failure, right? Of understanding what failure may mean and building up that resilience. There's two sides of it for sure.
Because one of the things that we've talked about in the past is your journaling and sitting down and taking the time to sit there and put something, pen to paper, so you have something written down and you can recall it and go back to it and continue to reference it. And I think, to your point, there is a bit of a technological generational disconnect, for lack of a better word, where they're drawn to those devices, where you and I will sit there and we'll go to the store and we'll grab, a pack of 5 legal pads for, $2.79, or we'll grab a big notebook like this, and we'll sit there and we'll write things down. And I think that it's that notion of, okay, actually doing something and understanding that, yes, there is a note section in your phone. You can do this into your phone, that sometimes that information,
it might be blurred, but that's always on my desk. Yep.
Post-its. I mean, and because I've always maintained that if you don't write something down, you have a tendency to forget it.
Most definitely. It's like going, I went to the grocery store this morning very early, and it's like, I have to take a Post-it, because if not, even if I tell myself, okay, there's 5 things that I have to remember, and I get in that store and I'll see something else, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was the last one, right? What was the last thing?
Well, but for me, I'm also the kind of guy that's going to do an impulse buy. Even, right. It's like, if I've got my list, and I'll just go down the aisles and sit there and go, ooh, ice cream, and that distracts us from the first
5 things. I love how you knew the exact price of the notepad, though. $2.79. I might have to go confirm and check that for you.
Hey, it's from all those books that you write, brother. You sit there and it's like, okay, what program do I need? What does it cost? Where do I go and do it? Just past halftime. We're now in the second half with Greg Garza, with a weekly visit from our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring, at BG Mentoring on the Twitters, here on a Freestyle Friday, getting ready for MLS Cup and a bunch of other things. I want to go back to a retirement that we had in Major League Soccer at the end of the regular season, and actually at the first round of the playoffs, Gonzalo Higuain. And one of the things that he said as a part of his retirement, I wanted to get your thoughts on. And it was where Gonzalo Higuain went public and expressed how difficult it was for him as an athlete because of social media and all of the negativity that was there. And because of that negativity, once he has, I guess, settled into being retired, he wants to be a mental health coach. And I thought that was a real interesting twist on being a mentor after experiencing something incredibly difficult here in the 21st century, that he wants to take those steps for the next steps in his career. What did you think about when that came across your bow?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? I'm going to be quite frank and quite honest within my answer, but has anybody seen him play the last year within the MLS? And I'd like to get maybe comments and seeing what his attitude was like,
Yeah,
the way he treated his teammates, the way that he treated others, and it's just little bitty examples of, you say, gosh, okay, well, is this the right move? Is this the right decision? I mean, hands down, so much respect towards who he is as a player. And I'm sure he's probably an awesome teammate to have at times, but there were some questionable acts within moments of adversity. And I think I always like to see what people's reactions are, whether you are in the limelight of being an absolute superstar or whoever you may be. When there are moments of adversity, what actions are you taking to deal with those? And there were moments throughout the whole entire year that I feel for a lot of players within that team on Inter Miami that have had to deal with or had to cope with a lot of negativity being around one person. And that's just my honest opinion, right? We have to share our thoughts. I wish him the very best on whatever is next in his career and whatever is next in his path. I mean, I'm sure he will have, an opening to do whatever it is he wants to, because of how much he has succeeded within the game of soccer. And that gives him such a massive platform to do so many different things for good. But there are a lot of questionable moments within the last year that kind of make you think, well, what was he thinking in those moments to really treat people a certain way.
In your career, when there have been, and I imagine that there's been that central force on a club, but that central force is negative. How difficult is it for everyone else to navigate around that centerpiece of negativity to still try to focus on a goal?
That's a difficult one, right? It takes one rotten apple within a locker room to bring everything down, right? And that's the truth. That's the truth of the matter, right? It can really be destructive when you have one person bringing everybody else down, because it's a ripple effect, right? It starts to domino. It starts to domino towards just one person, and that person pulling in somebody else within that bubble of negativity. And it has happened on teams before that I've been on, right? It has happened with coaching staffs that I have been on teams before, within the coaching staff of coaches, speaking negatively about one another, right? And you as a professional athlete of trying to get through those moments and remain positive can be very difficult. Because sometimes you get pulled within that negativity, and depending on what your personal and individual situation may be, right? I think at the end of the day, that's something for people on the outside to really understand, is that, yes, of course, it is a beautiful team sport, but at the end of the day, it is a very individualist sport as well, because you have to make the most out of what you are in there for a very short period of time, right? And you have to make the most out of every positive situation, and you have to learn how to cope and deal with those negative situations as well. And that's something for players that's a huge mental battle to go through when you're playing in such a big team environment, when there is negativity around one object or one person or one subject, to really, focus on yourself and not put any energy towards what that may be.
How difficult is it to explain that to a mentee where you have to ride that fine line?
Oh man, it is difficult. That's I actually spoke to a mentee last night about that. That's really interesting. Even when things are going so terribly wrong, where with whatever situation the team may be in, whatever situation the coach may be putting you through, Michael says it so well. He always says, if you continue to be negative, right, there's only going to be one outcome. Right. But if you have, sparks of positivity, there can be a way to change that around. And it's so easy for me to say and so hard to do. But that's the easy answer, right? If you can have little sparks of positivity, then you might be able to turn situations around. But if you continue down that negative path, there's only going to be one path. There's never going to be an intersection to where you can take another one.
All right. Before you go, MLS Cup. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
It is a game this weekend.
I got Philly.
Okay. Well, and I want to get into the DNA of both of these teams here a little bit, where Philly, they come at you in a unique fashion in the 4-4-2 diamond.
Yeah.
Don't know if they're going to have Bedoya or not, considering he had to leave again after another 30 plus minutes.
Yeah.
But Philadelphia is a team that will frustrate the ever-living you-know-what out of you, because what they'll do early on, and Ismail El-Fath is in the middle, they'll go right up against that line. They will foul. They will foul. They will foul. They will push. They will go. They will sit there and try to goad you into situations, and it'll be different dudes that will foul you. So you don't get to they're waiting for the persistent infringement call that may or may not ever come. They go right up against that line, try to frustrate the hell out of you. And I think against a team like LAFC, where if you're physical against them, you can knock them off their pins, you can distract them mentally, it could be a long day for Philly. As you look at this match, what do you see with these two teams?
I see Philly doing the exact same thing of what they've done with every other team. They play a nasty, go nonstop style of play that's obnoxiously successful.
Yes.
Right.
Good word. Good word.
And it's very I love it. I love it because I want to look at the fact of name one big player on Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Who in the world is Gazdag?
Daniel Gazdag. Yeah.
I've never even heard of him. Right. I don't even know where he came from. Who in the world is Martinez? Right.
Martinez. I think that if
plays for the Venezuelan national team, but where did he play? Where did he play before?
Right.
Venezuelan league.
Yeah.
Right. There are so many players. Look at Kai Wagner. He's been on the best 11 all-star team. That guy was playing in like the 3rd or 4th division of Germany before he came to Philly.
Yep.
Right. And you look at these players and you're like, holy crap, right? These players are developed players. They are developed players. There's nothing to do with, obviously they have a specific talent that they had in the very beginning, but Philly has developed these guys to have success out of nothing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is so interesting because they are a prime example of that. Money does not buy everything. Right.
System dudes.
Yep. They are all industrial players who are hardworking. And that's something that, even with Alejandro Bedoya, right? Who was the leader and captain of that team. Not someone who you say, gosh, that guy is going to be, such a playmaker, game changer. The guy has tons of games within the national team, played in the World Cup because of how hard that guy works. He is a hard worker. He is a ballsy guy who's going to go into every tackle, who's going to work his tail off until the last dying minute. Mm-hmm. And that's a guy who has now spread that energy to every single one of those players who are all unknown, in my opinion. I don't really know, any of them. I've never heard of any of those guys ever before. Not one player on that team. And so, I think that to me shows that, things within this league are ever changing, and you never know what you're going to get. it's a box of chocolates, right? You
Yeah.
never know. And I think, it's to see them have success within that. I love it. I love it. And I think deservingly they are there, with the style, like I said, of playing so obnoxious and just being a fighting team. But and then you have LA. You have LA, who's spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to have success, and keep spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to have success. And that pressure is on them. Philly goes into this game with no pressure at all whatsoever. And I think they'll play like that as well. They know they give two craps of all the guys that are worth millions that are in front of them, because they will run them in circles. And I think that's what's going to happen. That's my personal opinion. I can't wait until the game, because I think it's the two deserving teams of this year to be there. Both teams within both conferences really made a name for themselves this year. But I think within the development, and you see what Jim Curtin has done within the past 6-7 years within Philly, it's just been, it's one thing if you start to build and then you just kind of plateau. But within the last 7 years, I mean, if you look at Philly 10 years ago, wasn't much there going on. With some directing changes and everything that they've gone through, they've really built themselves up. I'll tell you this: Philly actually visited me in Tijuana before I went to Atlanta, so that was one of the places that, besides going to Atlanta, that was probably the other place I would have gone to. And I think it's a good thing I chose Atlanta, because I chose it at the right time, and everything ended up working out. But I love the progress that they've had with just their development and finding players that they know they can count on and are reliable.
And you've got Andre Blake in net, who's been more than happy to stand on his head.
Oh my gosh, he is unbelievable. He's always been amazing. His arms touch the floor while he's standing. The guy his reach. I want to know his wingspan has to be. I don't even know what his wingspan. It's got to be like 9 feet.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So what's going on with Beyond Goals? I know that you guys don't stop just because the pro soccer schedule doesn't stop. What's going on?
Yeah, we're excited to continuously grow. Like I said, we have a lot of things up our sleeve on focusing on the nonprofit side as well, which is a huge step in the right direction for us, and helping other communities and other demographics also have the ability to have guides and mentors. So if anyone is interested in helping us out there, always feel free to contact us. We would love any donations that can help kids get on the right path and have someone in their lives that they can count on.
Greg Garza at BG Mentoring on the Twitters, and Beyond Goals Mentoring on the World Wide Web. Greg, it's great to catch up with you as always. You and Cap are fantastic when you come here and you put up with my questions for a half hour on the Friday Free Kick every Friday. Thanks for hanging out.
The pleasure as always, man. Take care. Have a good weekend, bud.
You will, and I will too, because we're going to watch MLS Cup and
there you go.
A bunch of fun there as well. So Greg Garza, he's going to finish his cup of coffee. He's going to do a whole bunch of other things and hang out with us every other Friday, unless Michael Parkhurst has to come in from the bullpen. It is that time where I'm going to read the promo, and just so things don't get messed up again, because I don't trust any audio coming out of the system, at least this week, I'm going to go ahead and read the promo. I'm going to go ahead and read the promo a cappella. So here we go. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize service, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet, cigarettes, and food. Website and QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Realtors and property managers use a Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or other masking agents that we either have under our sink or above us in the cupboard. Because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard, and you spray it in the air, there's a reason they call it a masking agent, because that's what you're doing. You're masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like a Lemonize service does with their proven scientific formula. One of two ways to make pricing easy for you: cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. Any questions you have frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. And do us a favor, and this is where I grab my pen. After the website, do us a favor. After Aluminize.com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world you are addressing them from, so they can help you attack your issues. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, Aluminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Okay, so now the news of the day, and there's a lot of it. Just kind of blowing through everything that we saw yesterday that we're catching up with today. Gerard Piqué is retiring effective immediately. One last match this weekend, and then he is done with his time at Barca. So that one was a bit of a shocker when that came through yesterday, that Gerard Piqué is retiring. So we have that news for Barcelona, and apparently Piqué understands Barcelona, and they understand each other when it comes to salary situations. So I'm guessing there's going to be some kind of a friendly buyout that will be broken down there. And so Gerard Piqué, I don't think he'll leave empty-handed, but once again, Gerard Piqué retiring effective basically immediately from his time at Barcelona. Also on the board, Timo Werner out for the World Cup. That came out yesterday as well. So he was playing in the Bundesliga, injured a knee, and so he's out for the World Cup. So that's a bad piece of news for Timo Werner and the clubs that currently have him as part of their roster base. NWSL expansion. Today is the last day to file any kind of a notice, and it looks like there are a handful of groups. You have the two groups that are in you have the East Bay and you have the Northern California group, the Leslie Osborne, Daniel Slayton group, and the East Bay group came online a couple days ago saying that they were going to jump in. A third one came in yesterday that was really, really interesting. Jeff Reuter had the article at ESPN about the growth of the NWSL. Minnesota Aurora looks like they're trying to piece together paperwork and try to beat the deadline. Minnesota Aurora, you'll remember them. They were the team that was the best in USLW last year in the regular season, made it all the way to the last game of the year, and had Sarah Fuller in net for them, and one of the best defenses in the USLW, but lost to South Georgia Tormentas, W League team, in the USLW final. But it looks like Minnesota Aurora is going to be applying for NWSL expansion status. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. So I thought that was interesting, and what that'll do is and we've seen the crowds that were there for the championship game on the campus of the Minnesota Vikings at their practice facility, where they had 9,000 folks there for the title game. So we'll see what happens with NWSL and all of that. Like I said, we've discussed MLS Cup. Greg Garza is going Philadelphia. I know Rich Ransom is going Philadelphia. I would put it out there. A Shooter's going for LAFC. I guess he's going for anybody but the Western Conference. So he wants him to take out the Philly trash. Go Revs. Good morning, Shooter. A couple of other things. Don Garber gave his state of the league yesterday, and a couple of things that were brought out in the speech and the Q&A session. Active discussions with both San Diego and Las Vegas, according to Don Garber. It's a renewed push. They're trying to finalize Team 30 sometime in the first half of 2023. Provided an update at the State of the League address, and quoting Garber, "I'm a big believer in San Diego. I think there's a view that San Diego is too nice there. People are out surfing, hanging out at the beach. I just don't buy it. I think San Diego is a great sports market. It's a gateway city." And the interest, once again, with the team would play at Snapdragon on the campus of San Diego State University. You've seen what the San Diego Wave and NWSL have been able to do in that building. You had the 2018 vote in San Diego that denied the Soccer City project. That included Landon Donovan. Garber said, quote, "Sometimes it takes a step back to take a couple steps forward. We did take a step back, but I think it's fantastic that they are where they are. Hope we continue to make progress with an ownership group that we're taking to, and we're optimistic." So Vegas at the same time. He says that believe that Vegas, like all other leagues do, is going to be a growing market, both in terms of the number of people and its ability to drive success for professional sports. We have active discussions there. One of the keys is finding a stadium He says, got a lot of work to do because you clearly need to build an indoor MLS stadium. Stadiums are expensive. Indoor stadiums are really expensive. So we'll see how that all plays out. Not a matter of who's first or who's second. Both are very active discussions. Remember, St. Louis City is coming in next season as 29. Garber said there are over 60,000 deposits for season tickets at City Park. All positive data points. Really think it's credit to where North America is today. There's not a large city in the U.S. or Canada where you can't have a successful MLS team or a successful professional team if it's not in Major League Soccer. That's a testament to what's going on in the sport. He addressed Apple, the new Apple partnership. It's 10-year partnership will make MLS games available on any device without blackouts, improved picture quality, simplified schedule, making viewing windows more predictable for fans. And we talked about that where you have the whip around show that's going to go from basically, I think, 7 o'clock all the way through. And if you are an Eastern Conference team, your programming window of exclusivity is from 6 to 7 Eastern time. This comes from the article at The Athletic that came out a couple of weeks ago that kind of laid everything out when it came to the TV grid. So if you're an Eastern Conference team, it looks like your window would best benefit your audience in a pregame or a pre-Apple pregame format. And if you are a Western Conference team, then it would be after the fact, or if you're on the West Coast, if you're an Eastern Conference team playing in a crossover, it would be post-Apple post-game for things on the West Coast. Nothing is allowed in between. You have all of your windows with all of the matches starting 7:30, 10 o'clock, and working its way through. The only constant would be the whip around show that would be at all the way through from the beginning of the Apple grid to the end of the Apple grid. So pregame for games on the East Coast, post-game for games on the West Coast, that would be the local opportunities currently right now if that's how things are laid out. More details announced in the weeks and months ahead. And Garber believes the profile of MLS globally will only increase because of this. So you've got that when it comes to those issues. The other issue that was brought up was there was a question that was asked during the State of the Union about Merritt Paulson and what was going on with his ownership of the Portland Timbers. And the Ryan Clark, or go to Ryan T. Clark at Oregon Live. Basically, it's the Oregonian. And the question was asked, and he said, Don Garber said on Thursday that nothing came out in the U.S. soccer investigation that indicates Merritt Paulson should sell the Portland Timbers, and the league does not see any reason at all for the owner to sell. Paulson recently fired the two top execs, stepped down as CEO of the Portland Timbers and the Thorns, and that was in wake of the U.S. soccer investigation. And this is from the Ryan Clark piece at the Oregonian. In the wake of the U.S. soccer investigation, which determined Paulson and his executives enabled and vouched for former Thorns coach Paul Riley, who's accused of sexual harassment and coercion of multiple former players. Quoting Garber, "We at this time do not see any reason at all for Merritt to sell the Timbers," end quote. The commissioner went on once again, and this is the Ryan Clark copy. The commissioner went on to say that Paulson has publicly acknowledged his mistakes and that he has taken responsibility for those decisions that he made. Garber added that stepping down as CEO and firing Gavin Wilkinson and Mike Golub were steps in the right direction. Quoting Garber, "So there was nothing that came out in the Yates report that would have us think any differently from what I just stated there." Garber discussed Paulson and the Timbers on Thursday in the State of the League. It wasn't the first time Garber has defended Paulson. February, he sidestepped questions. Once again, this is the Ryan Clark verbiage in his article about Paulson's ownership in the wake of domestic violence allegations against former Timbers player Andy Polo. And then he relayed the quote from the initial thoughts back in February. Thorns provided a statement to the Oregonian after the State of the Union. As of today, the Thorns have produced over 300 documents to investigators totaling over 1,500 pages. Club representatives have sat for multiple interviews with both investigative teams. In fact, all the club's employees that were requested to be interviewed by the investigative teams have sat for those interviews. While it's correct the Thorns retained certain information on the basis of attorney-client privilege, the club provided as much information as feasible without waiving any legal privilege or protections. In fewer than 3 months from DLA Piper's first conversations with the USSF investigators, the Thorns had produced hundreds of pages of documents, including materials that it had to carefully consider in light of legal privileges and protections. The Thorns cooperated and acted expeditiously. Despite that, as the Yates report acknowledges, the club was under no obligation to do so. The issue of the scope of attorney-client privilege was complicated in this situation by the fact the USSF was contracted to run the NWSL in 2015. The NWSL directly employed the players on the Thorns, and the Thorns employed Paul Riley. That construct raised complicated issues of which party owned or could waive the applicable privileges, end quote. For any owner to be removed, I believe it is 75% of the owners have to agree when it comes to any kind of owner removal. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But that was the State of the Union yesterday with Don Garber. Other stuff from overseas. Rich, MLS sees Timbers and Thorns as separate issues. Emilio, games looks like they're going to be unified. They're going to be Eastern 7:30 starts. Eastern time zone looks like they're going to be 7:30. So it would be 6 to 7. 7 is your Apple pregame. 7:30 would be your game starts. So that's the way it's looking right now, at least from the released document that came out in the Athletic piece. If I'm remembering it correctly, that's how it lays out for right now. Pre-Apple window for the home team, Eastern time. Apple pregame. Games 7:30 through midnight, 12:30. Apple postgame. Then, after the West Coast games are over, then the local teams can pick up again and do a post-Apple postgame show. So nothing in the in-between is allowed under the current Apple contract. So it's pre-Apple, Apple pre, game block, Apple post, team post. And that's how it would be if a team decided that they wanted to do one or the other or both. Those would be the windows that are open in those situations. Also, overseas, and I wanted to get into this before we get into all of the viewing habits. By the way, 11:30 on the network, we're going to do Thursdays with Nico on a Friday. So 11:30 Eastern time, we're going to have Nico Moreno and get Nico's thoughts on MLS Cup and anything else on his mind going into MLS Cup. So 11:30 here on the network, also here on Twitch. So on Twitch, then later for a podcast. Nico's Thursdays with Nico on a Friday, 11:30 in an hour and 12 minutes from now. On the board, and it was a Sky News story. So let me see if I can find it specifically about, and I also want to look at the two documentaries that both Sky and ITV came through the other day. Okay, this was part of it. This was part of it from the World Cup folks themselves. This is from Rob Harris, the sports correspondent at Sky. This was one of the two stories I wanted to get into. FIFA's leadership has written to World Cup teams, urging them to focus on the tournament in Qatar and not be a part of lecturing on morality and dragging football, quote, into every ideological or political battle that exists, end quote. Once again, this is Rob Harris's copy from our friends at Sky. Sky has exclusively seen the full letter from FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino, and the governing body's secretary general, Fatma Samora, that has been sent amid growing pressure on players to be activists around the tournament. It has been a World Cup buildup dogged by concerns about the suffering of low-paid migrant workers to build the infrastructure in the tiny Gulf nation and discriminatory laws that criminalize same-sex relations. Infantino and Samora wrote to the 32 football nations contesting the World Cup, including England and Wales. Quote, please, let's now focus on the football. We know football does not live in a vacuum, and we are equally aware that there are many challenges and difficulties of a political nature all around the world. But please do not allow football to be dragged into every ideological or political battle that exists, end quote. The letter comes in the wake of, but does not directly address calls to FIFA from Ukraine for Iran to be banned from the tournament for supplying weapons to aid Russia's attacks on Ukraine. The group stage, which begins in less than 3 weeks, has Iran playing England, Wales, and the United States. The letter does not reference the request by England and Wales and 6 other European nations for their captains to wear One Love multicolored armbands at the World Cup, which are a response to concerns about Qatar's anti-LGBTQ plus laws. Both British nations have already said they would defy any ban by FIFA, which used the letter to caution against activism. Infantino wrote, quote, "At FIFA, we try to respect all opinions and beliefs without handing out moral lessons to the rest of the world." Paragraph. "One of the great strengths of the world is indeed its very diversity, and if inclusion means anything, it means having respect for that diversity. No one people or culture or nation is better than any other. This principle is the very foundation stone of mutual respect and non-discrimination, and this is also one of the core values of football, so please let's all remember that and let football take center stage." Infantino and Samora said everyone will be welcome in Qatar, quote, "regardless of origin, background, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or nationality," end quote. Qatar World Cup CEO Nasser Al-Khater told Sky News last month that gay fans would be welcome, while saying the culture meant anti-LGBTQ laws had to remain in place, despite deterring some fans from traveling. The FIFA letter was sent to the nations competing in the men's football showpiece as they finalized squads. FIFA's chiefs wrote, "Let's take that opportunity and unite the world through the universal language of football." Tournaments leaving a legacy with more stringent regulations on working conditions, the introduction of a minimum wage, and efforts to dismantle the kafala system that ties workers to their employers. But the English and Welsh football associations have highlighted concerns about labor abuses by calling for compensation for families of those who died building the wider infrastructure the tiny Gulf nation has required to cope with an influx of teams and fans for a month of matches. The last English team to play in Qatar was Liverpool at the FIFA Club World Cup in 2019. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp told Sky News this week it is not fair to expect political statements from players around the World Cup. Jurgen Klopp said they go there to play football. It's not about this generation's players to say now that we don't go or we don't do that. The decision to hold the tournament in Qatar was made by other people, and if you want to criticize anybody, criticize the people who made the decision. So going through the full text, I'm trying to see if there's anything in the full text of the letter. I think we pretty much covered it all. So that was the letter that came from Gianni Infantino and Fatma Samora to the clubs that they are supposed to carry with them those thoughts about just focusing on the football going forward. So we'll see if that does come to pass. Prince William has no plans to go to the World Cup in Qatar due to a busy winter schedule. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's see. I'm trying to find the other story that was attached to fans and Qatar specifically. And it looks like I'll find it in a bit. I'm fairly certain that I'll find it. But so we've got news out of Qatar when it comes to fans and support and all those kinds of things. Ben Jacobs this morning on the Twitters was discussing the Super League and its possible return or probable return at this point. And Ben says, especially this morning, about 6:30 this morning, La Liga came out with a statement of their own on their social media that the promoters of the Super League are now preparing a model similar to the one put forward in 2019, which is still closed or mostly closed, which will destroy the national leagues, which has already been rejected by the clubs in Europe. The video said the Super League boasts of creating a more exciting competition when what it will offer is a constant stream of clashes, turning the extraordinary into the ordinary with fewer attractions than the current competition. So it looks like La Liga is laying down the gauntlet when it comes to this idea of a new Super League. And then A22 had a response, and A22 is the sports development company in charge of getting Super League 2.0 off the ground. A22 responded by saying, "Hey, hi, La Liga, get your facts right. What you're saying is wrong. Our approach is an open dialogue about European club football, including with critics. It's our firm belief that European club football needs an open debate without manipulation." And so Bernd Reichart, their new CEO, back on the 19th of October, had a 2.5-minute video where he explained what they were looking for with the new version of the Super League. And A22 basically called out La Liga on Twitter, saying that, and by the way, rather than talking about us, if you want to know more about our project, you can always talk to us. We're here, and with the waving hand emoji on Twitter. So now we have a Twitter war between A22 and La Liga. So we've got that going on when it comes to the Super League. Getting into gossip, rumor, innuendo, viewing habits, and all those other things. Let's see what viewing habits we have today, and we'll get into that. Soccer on TV for today. Liga on BN and BN Espanol at 4 o'clock. You've got ESPN Deportes, Athletic Club, and Girona at 4. Goal TV as the Portuguese League at 4:15. And you can, if you don't have Goal TV, you can catch that on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And you can catch up there with that. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. And the French D1 Arkema is on autofootball.com at 4 o'clock as well. ESPN Plus has the Bundesliga at 3:30. Belgian First Division at 3:45. Championship at 4 o'clock. FA Cup between Hereford and Portsmouth at 3:55. That's random. Bundesliga B, Darmstadt and Hanover at 2:30. Southern Tournament in the men's college, and you've also got some West Coast action at 8 and 9. College women's tournament, the A10, the Big Sky, the Southland, Conference USA, Ohio Valley, and those tournament doubleheader, triple headers, they go starting at noon, go all the way through an 8 o'clock kick. Paramount has Serie A, Udinese, and Lecce at 3:45. Scottish Championship at 3:45, Cove Rangers and Queen's Park. So that is your Friday. Saturday, once again, MLS Cup, 4 o'clock kick, 4:05 kick, I believe. So your pregame show comes on after big noon Saturday on Big Fox. So they're going to try to have you stay for Fox the entire day by going big noon Saturday, MLS Cup, World Series. beIN Sports has Ligue 1 on Saturday, Turkish Super League on Saturday. 1 o'clock, USA has Manchester City and Fulham. I know the hope for Pep Guardiola was to have Erling Haaland return for that match. That's at 11 a.m. Remember, they're still on a time change. They have still fallen back where we have not yet. And so that's why the times are a little goofy right now. beIN Sports and Espanol is simulcasting everything from beIN. Gold TV has the Primera, La Liga triple header on ESPN Deportes. TUDN simulcasting the MLS Cup. Premier League on Universo. Univision also has MLS Cup. Out of football has the German Frauen Bundesliga, the D1 Arkema, and the Supercoppa Femminile from Italy. ESPN Plus has Bundesliga, Bundesliga B, FA Cup, Championship early on Saturday morning, La Liga Santander. USL Championship, your conference final, Lou City in Tampa Bay. Remember, that's at 7:30 on the right-hand side of your bracket. On the left-hand side of your bracket, Colorado Springs goes to San Antonio. Everything goes through San Antonio, and that is also this upcoming weekend. Remember, once again, League One final on ESPN2 Sunday night, 7:30 from Statesboro. If you can't be there, Chattanooga and Tormenta, that one's going to be fun. So it's a full weekend across the board when it comes to all of the action and your championship games. Juice boxes, once again, before we go. Wrexham and Oldham Athletics Sunday morning in the FA Cup, yes. And I'm still catching up on my episodes of Welcome to Wrexham. So let's get into juice boxes for today. Once again, right now you're looking at Far Eastern, you're looking at lower divisions in Europe, you're looking at everything gradually working its way to Middle East and North Africa right now. All the action going on, that's the morning, and that takes us into early afternoon play. That gets us into the larger leagues, 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon. Germany lower divisions, a lot of lower division stuff in Europe in general, gets us through the 3 o'clock hour, and FA Cup at 3:45, not on ESPN Plus. Udinese, as we said, big favorite at home against Lecce. That's at 3:45. Let's see. Championship, you've got Reading as a slight home favorite against Preston North End. We know that Jessica Charman will be keeping an eye on that one. Once again, reminder, after late night during the World Cup Atlanta Soccer Tonight, 92.9 The Game with Jason and Jess. It'll take you through the night owl version of everything that happened during the day after the other programming has worked its way through. Night Owls Unite, Atlanta Soccer Tonight with Jason and Jess at 92.9 The Game. Getting into the evening action, you got Liga MX Femenil. We hadn't talked about that. Club America favored at home against Chivas. That one is at 8 o'clock. And then your doubleheader ends at 10:06 with Tigres and Monterrey. Tigres are favored at -119. Monterrey is a +249. Also, going through the papers with your daily gossip and tracking of players and things like that before we go. Atletico Madrid willing to listen to offers for João Felix, who was a summer target for Manchester United. Spurs have reached an agreement to sign Atalanta's Ruslan Malinovsky in January. That's from Il Giorno via the Express. Leicester City have been scouting Lorient's French midfielder Enzo Lefebvre as a possible replacement for Yuri Tielemans, who was linked with a summer move to Arsenal. Mikel Arteta says he will, quote, look at everything, end quote, regarding January and reinforcements. Wants to bring players of another level to Arsenal in January. Facundo Torres from Orlando City. Shakhtar Donetsk, Mikhailo Mudryk are atop the list of targets. That's from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own risk. Manchester United are confident England forward Marcus Rashford and Portugal right back Diogo Dalot will extend their contracts with the club. They're among several players whose deals expire in the summer, including David De Gea, Luke Shaw, and Cristiano Ronaldo. That's from 90 Minutes. Piqué is reportedly giving up €30 million owed to him after saying he's retiring from football after this Saturday's La Liga match at the new camp. Aston Villa made Pau Torres a top target after appointing Unai Emery, his former manager at Villarreal. West Ham have joined Southampton, Leicester, and Brentford in tracking Brazil winger Tete, 22, who's on loan at Lyon from Shakhtar Donetsk. That's from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own risk. Lionel Messi's new PSG contract includes a clause that allows him to put international priorities before his clubs in the run-up to what is expected to be his last World Cup. Liverpool preparing to open talks on a new contract with Bobby Firmino. Netherlands winger Anwar El Ghazi says he misses playing in England after leaving Aston Villa for PSV Eindhoven in the summer. That's from our friends at The Athletic. Wolves hope to appoint Julian Lopetegui as their new manager on November 13th. The day after they play Arsenal in their final match before the World Cup break. That's from the four-letter paper. Real Madrid have a contract proposal ready for Toni Kroos in case the 32-year-old decides to continue playing for one more year. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Flamengo president Rodolfo Landim has said rumors linking Manchester United and Portugal forward Cristiano Ronaldo to the Brazilian club are creative. Adding a 37-year-old would be a lot of money to pay for a substitute. That's from the Daily Record. Shooter, you wish Wolves would get Nuno back, then there would be no offense, which really wouldn't be a change to how things are now. They need to get goals in the back of the net. And right now, the way things are with the standings, and let me get into the matches here on the weekend since you brought up Wolves. Yes, the team is not good. Right now, your standings, Wolves are in the relegation zone. They're only 2 points out of relegation, but they've only won 2 of their first 13. They've only won once in their last 5. They only have 4 points in their last 5. Nottingham Forest, 9 points, they're last. Wolves are 10 points. They're next to last. Leicester, sorry, Nick, they're at 11 points. That's your relegation zone. But you've got 3 teams at 12 points, 1 at 13, 2 at 14. And Brentford is at 15. So literally from 11 to the basement, it's 6 points separating Brentford from Nottingham Forest. Matches this weekend, it's 5-5. And it is 11 o'clock starts. Remember, once again, they've fallen back. We have yet to do so. That's why the times are 11 and 1:30 on Saturday. Leeds a favorite at home against Bournemouth. Manchester City a big favorite at home against Fulham. Nottingham Forest a slight underdog at home at City Ground against Brentford. Wolves big underdog as Brighton comes to town to the Molineux. 1:30. Everton is a favorite at home against Leicester City. 5 on Sunday. 7 o'clock Eastern. Chelsea Arsenal within the margin of error. Chelsea's a +165. Arsenal's a +172 in the composite. 9 o'clock starts. Manchester United a favorite at Aston Villa. Newcastle minus 109 at Southampton. West Ham minus 106 at home against Crystal Palace. 11:30 Tottenham and Liverpool. Liverpool's a plus 118 going up against Spurs. Spurs are a plus 231. So that's what you're looking at in the Premier League. And then everything goes back at it on with 8 games next Saturday and then 2 the following Sunday as the sprint continues for the World Cup. So that's where we are with the Premier League. Trying to see if there's anything else on the board. We'll wait and see when the Europa League draw happens. Barca, Juve, Ajax, Sevilla, Manchester United. That's all part of Europa League. Let's see. So the playoff draw only affects the sides who finish second in their Europa League groups, pitting them against each one of the 8 teams who finish third in the Champions League groups. Means Europa League groups winners get a round off and head straight through to the round of 16, meaning no more European football to worry about until March 9th. So March 9th is when things kick back in for the Europa League. Arsenal, Manchester United qualified from the group stages, and you have the automatic progress. Europa League playoff draw, noon local time. So it would be 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday, November 7, at UEFA's headquarters in Switzerland. And I think that the Champions League draws right in and around there, too. I think that's at 6 o'clock in the morning. The Europa League draws at 7 o'clock on tomorrow morning, so on Monday morning. So that's where we'll be keeping an eye on all of that. Transfers, keeping an eye on what's going on there. Maxime Choupo-Moting could end up in the Premier League, according to Media Foot, as a replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo. Since leaving Stoke, where he had 5 goals in 30 domestic appearances, he's won 4 trophies at PSG and another 5 with Bayern. So he's got a reduced role with Julian Nagelsmann, and he's available on a free in the summer when Ronaldo's expected to leave Old Trafford. Eric Ten Hag said to be a fan could be a useful addition. Crystal Palace boss Patrick Vieira says continued speculation over the future of Wilfried Zaha will not be a distraction for either the player or the club. His 5-year contract expires in the summer of 23, continues to be linked to a move away from the club. Unai Emery wants to create in a new way, and in football time isn't as much. That's why he's got a 4.5-year deal, and he pledges to help underperforming players. He's not going to change what they had at Villa for the sense of a captaincy. And so he wants to check and test what's going on there. His dream is to win a trophy at Aston Villa. Press conference has gone on over in the last hour. His personal challenge. Second dream or objective could be to play with Aston Villa in Europe, but we have to only start thinking about the next match. So that's where Unai Emery is right now. He's had his opening message as of just under an hour ago of what he wants when it comes to life at Aston Villa. Manchester City's Pep Guardiola paid a heartfelt tribute to Piqué. Had an incredible career at Barca. Wish him personally all the best for him and his family. I know his mom and dad. He's an incredible human being, huge personality. Honor for me to be his manager. We spent an incredible 4 years together. And so that statement came out this season, this morning. Newcastle's going to look to offload Jamal Lascelles in January, according to Football Insider. So falling down the pecking order, starting in just 2 of his 5 appearances this year, doesn't feature in Eddie Howe's long-term plans. We mentioned Wilfried Zaha. Barca and Juve are keeping an eye on Wilfried Zaha, according to the Evening Standard. Leeds United have been told to pay just under €7 million to RB Leipzig for striker Jean-Kevin Augustin. Remember, they loaned him back in January 2020 with an obligation to buy for €21 million if they were promoted to the Prem. Due to COVID-19, Leeds felt they no longer were obliged to pay Leipzig a fee because the season was completed after June 30, so the terms of the loan had expired. Leipzig took the case to CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, dismissed Leeds' appeal, ordered him to pay the first installment for Augustine. Leeds have said they're going to appeal. So you have that as well. Alessandro Del Piero has played down speculation Antonio Conte could return to Juve, insisted his old teammate still has a lot of things to do at his current side. Barcelona lining up Athletic Bilbao center back Inigo Martinez to replace Piqué. Diario Sport claim that they're going to try to cope without Piqué till the end of the season before bringing Martinez in. Eddie Howe tight-lipped about whether Newcastle will be busy in January. 4-letter papers wondering if Leicester can still tie down Yuri Tielemans. And so that is your morning papers and all of the gossip that we could put our hands on when it comes to everything that is going on there. Emilio volunteered your services to Forest, but they repay you with scorn. So I know that a lot of you have your Premier League sides, and it's always fun to catch up with you guys when it comes to finding out what's going on with all of that. So I think that is all the news that's fit to print. Once again, thanks to our buddy Greg Garza for dropping by at Beyond Goals. If you're going to be in Statesboro, I'll be there. It'll be great to see you. And once again, Tormenta chasing after another title to add to their stars on their jerseys. So once again, it's on ESPN2. Toby Otieno will be on the network later today. We're taping an interview with him as they're getting ready for everything going on down there this weekend. Try to catch up with Chattanooga Red Wolves. High school commitments kept me in a studio without a phone for 3 hours yesterday, so we couldn't tape the interview that we were looking to with Jose Carrera Garcia, but hopefully we can catch back up with someone Red Wolves to where we can have something done later this afternoon. Trying to see if there's anything else that I have missed. The interview with Stephen Short that we have planned for USL and the Lexington Club that got pushed back to Monday. So we'll have that one on Monday as well. So very, very busy weekend. A lot of you guys are all over the place. And once again, that's fantastic that I love that you guys are able to do these kinds of things, especially baseball down here and discussing the Oakland A's. That is not something that I had on the bingo card this morning, but glad that you guys are a part of that. We'll be back Monday morning. We'll discuss MLS Cup. I know that Bam was awake in the middle of the night watching the first hour, and he's hoping that his LAFC will come back a champion. My money currently, if I had juice boxes on it, it would be on the other guys, on Philadelphia. And right now, your juice boxes in that particular match, LA is a 90-minute minus 123. Your 90-minute draws a plus 305, and the Union are a plus 288. I'll take those numbers. I will take those numbers on the Philadelphia, the 90-minute draw side. Absolutely. So we'll be back Monday morning, 9:05 to break everything down. Remember, back here in 45 minutes on a twitch.tv/soccer down here for Thursdays with Nico on a Friday. And we'll go through things for a half hour before I have some commitments at the Fired Up Network up in Canada afternoon where we get to discuss everything soccer. And I continue to talk. High school football tonight before we go. 7 o'clock recruiting 2022. We caught up with DJ Chester, the big tackle out of Eagles Landing Christian, who's headed to LSU. We also caught up with Lawson Lucky from Norcross, as he is right now headed to Georgia. 7:30. It is North Gwinnett and Norcross. It is decision day here in the state of Georgia for high school football. Who's in, who's out? 425 get trimmed to 255, and the postseason starts on Friday. Who goes where? And what's your path? We find that out all night long. North Gwinnett and Norcross at 7:30 on the web. It is a region title again, chased after with Cedar Grove and Carver, Atlanta, for those of you that are big high school football folks. And we will just run through the entire evening. We'll probably be on till 11:30, maybe midnight. We'll see. Be a long night, but it'll be a fun one as we start to plug in all of our teams when it comes to the postseason and your bracket. So thanks for hanging out with me, as you guys always do here on a weekly basis. Glad that Jared is somewhat on the mend. Hopefully Jared will be back with us at full song on Monday as we break down MLS Cup and everything else that is going on that is a part of the sport that we talk about and we love so much. So that is it for Soccer Down here for yet another week. The podcast will be posted in short order so you can listen to the show again. And if there's anything you missed, you can catch back up to it. So for everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us for yet another week. Mucha plata, y'all. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll see you in Statesboro on Sunday, back here on Monday.